There Will Come Soft Rains is a short story by science fiction author Ray Bradbury which was first published in the May 6, 1950 issue of Collier's. Later that same year the story was included in Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. Characters and story. The story begins by introducing the reader to a computer-controlled house that cooks, cleans, and takes care of virtually every need that a well-to-do United States family could be assumed to have. The reader enters the text on the morning of August 4, 2026, and follows the house through some of the daily tasks that it performs as it prepares its inhabitants for a day of work. At first, it is not apparent that anything is wrong, but eventually it becomes clear that the residents of the house are not present, and that the house is empty. While no direct explanation of the non-existence of the family is produced, the silhouettes of a man, a woman, 2 children, and their play ball are described as having been burnt into one side of the house, implying that they were all incinerated by the thermal flash of possibly a nuclear weapon. The house is described as standing amidst the ruins of a city. The leveled urban area is described briefly as emitting a radioactive glow. The house is the only thing left standing, and continues to perform its duties, unaware that the family is gone. At one point, further insight into the demise of the family is given when a tape recorder within the house recites a poem by Sarah Teasdale called There Will Come Soft Rains. The poem describes how the Earth's other living things, and implicitly nature as a whole, are unaffected by an event of human extinction that has occurred as the result of an unnamed disaster. At 10:00 p.m., the house is finally destroyed as well when a gust of wind blows a tree branch through the kitchen window, spilling cleaning solvent on the stove and causing a fire to break out. The house warns the family to get out of the building and tries shutting doors to limit the spread. The house also attempts to fight the fire, but its water reservoirs have been depleted after numerous days of cooking and cleaning without replenishment. The house burns to the ground except for one wall, which continues to give the time and date the following morning. In the original Collier's story, the story's events take place in a deserted house in the city of Allendale, California, on April 28, 1985. The title and motif of the story, as outlined above, comes from Sarah Teasdale's 1920 poem, There Will Come Soft Rains, which had a post-apocalyptic setting inspired by World War I. The imagery of the poem is echoed and expanded in the story. Historical context. The story portrays a scene of obliteration, in which the human race has been destroyed by a nuclear war. The fear of the devastating effects of nuclear force was typical of the Cold War era. The world was still recovering from the effects of World War II, and events, such as the dropping of atomic bombs in Japan, were fresh in the minds of citizens throughout the world. In 1945, the United States released a nuclear bomb over the city of Hiroshima that destroyed nearly everything in the city. 3 days later, Nagasaki was also bombed. Tens of thousands of people died as a direct result of the bombings, 250,000 more perished of radiation poisoning within 30 days. Even though the war ended shortly after these events, the fear of retaliation and the increasing focus on the development of nuclear weapons by many military powers worldwide produced fear in the minds of people. After the war, tension increased between the 2 major military powers of the time, the USSR and its satellite states, and NATO including the United States, culminating in the Cold War. This was a time of uncertainty, and the possibility of nuclear war was a daily fear. Adaptations. In 1950, an adaptation was broadcast as the 11th episode of Dimension X, a science fiction radio program. In 1953, an adaptation of the story was published in issue 17 of the comic book Weird Fantasy, with art by Wally Wood. In 1956, the story was made into a radio play for the X-1 series. In 1962, actor Burgess Meredith recorded this story, which was released on LP by Prestige Lively Arts, along with Marionettes, Incorporated, also by Bradbury. In 1964, the X-1 script was reused on the radio series NBC Experiment in Drama. In 1975, actor Leonard Nimoy's rendition of this story and Ray Bradbury's Usher II, also from The Martian Chronicles, were released on Cademan Records. In 1977, August 2026, There Will Come Soft Rains was released. It used the resources of the BBC Radiophonic Workshop under the direction of Malcolm Clarke. In 1984, Soviet studio Urzbekfilm produced There Will Come Soft Rains as a short animated film. In 1992, Lebbeus Woods adapted the story to the third issue of the comic book series Ray Bradbury Chronicles. In 2008, a theatre puppetry adaptation served as the final act of a New York Fringe Festival show by Sinking Ship Productions named after the story. In 2008, the post-apocalyptic game Fallout 3, which takes place in the irradiated remnants of Washington, D.C., there is a robot in a house in Georgetown that, upon entering a command in a terminal in the house, will hover into the bedroom of the occupant's children and recite the poem for which the story is named. The robot reciting the poem is a reference to the story, as well as the content of the poem itself. In 2015, shortly after Leonard Nimoy's death, the concept album Soft Rains was released featuring Nimoy's 1975 reading, set to music by producer Karin Ellis under the pseudonym Zarelli. References. External links: There Will Come Soft Rains title listing of the Internet Speculative Fiction Database.